Welcome to Job Interview Success Tips, Getting to the Job Offer. My name is Tamara Small. I'm the Career Development Manager of the Graduate Business Career Services, and I'm so excited you could join us today. Before we go into the webinar, I want to find out how much time do you think you should spend preparing for an interview? So think about that a moment. You might say 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. It's probably what most people spend preparing for an interview. But think about how much time did you spend to get to this job interview? Preparing your resume, your cover letter, applying for jobs. For some, it may be 10, 20, 30 hours. But then when you get to the interview, so many times individuals will spend the least amount of the job search process preparing for the interview. And this is really where you should spend most of your time. If you can get to the job interview, this is how you can get to that job offer. So you want to spend as much time as it takes to master that interview. So for some, it may be 2, 3, 4 hours, and maybe 10 hours. How much you want that job is going to depend on how much time you'll spend. If you really don't care whether you get the job, then maybe you only spend an hour or two. But if it's the job that you truly want, you may spend 10, 12 hours preparing for that job interview. So today we're going to talk about what is the purpose of an interview, how to prepare for the interview, frequently asked questions that you may encounter, how to dress for success, the importance of mock interviews, and questions and answers. So what is the purpose of the interview? Now, if we're talking about for the company, it is to figure out your skills and experience. Will they allow you to do the job? The employer wants to know, can you do the job based on your previous experience and skills? And will you be a good cultural fit for the department and company? And when I talk about culture fit, I don't mean your ethnicity or background. We're talking about the culture of the company. So for instance, USD has a different culture than maybe San Diego State University or University of California, San Diego. So they each have different cultures. So would you be a good fit for their company culture? And then it's also important for you to realize, is the company department a good fit for you? And do you want the job? Because although the job may have looked attractive when you looked at the job posting, and you're probably excited when you got the interview, but once you get to the interview, you got to find out, is this really where I want to spend the next 3, 5, 10 plus years? Then you want to ask yourself, what should I do before, during, and after the interview? Because there is a process for each, before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview. So before the interview, you want to research the company. You want to find out as much as you can about the company, because companies want to know not only can you do the job, but why do you want to work for them? They want to hire people who would be dedicated to their mission and really want to be a part of their team. Analyze the job description. You want to analyze the job description and find out, what have you done in the past that would help you be successful in the future at this job opening? And you can do that by analyzing, what are they looking for? And what are examples of where you've done this in the past? Match your experience to the job posting. So again, when you're analyzing the job posting, highlight things that you've done in the past. So when it comes to the interview, you can provide concrete examples of where you've already done this, so it demonstrates your transferable skills. Be prepared to dress for success. Now, you may ask yourself, oh, well, doesn't everybody wear a suit to interview? Not actually. It depends what part of the country you're in. I'm from the Midwest originally, and most of the time we would wear suits. But on the West Coast, people dress a little more casual in certain industries. So you want to find out, what is the best dress for your interview? Usually what they say is one step above what the daily wear is for that company. So we're thinking about a company like Google or Facebook, maybe they wear shorts and jeans and t-shirts to work. You want to dress one step above. If you wore a suit to that interview, it might be a little bit overdressed. But when in doubt, ask the recruiter or hiring manager if you don't know what to wear to interview. Say, I just want to make sure I'm dressed appropriately for the interview. Is a suit appropriate, or is there another attire that's better? So when in doubt, ask. Know your salary expectations. You can do research. You can find out what are the salaries in that industry for that organization. So there's salary.com, there's salary experts, there's different ways to research salary. So you want to know, what are your salary expectations? So if you get that question, you'll know how to answer it. Answer the most commonly asked interview questions. And this is before the interview. This is not a time where you just want to wing it. I was a hiring manager for a number of years, and I could usually tell the people who prepared answers and the people who are trying to wing it during the interview. And what I mean by that is they don't prepare ahead of time. And these are usually the people that ramble on and try to talk until they finally get to the answer. You want to make sure that you have answers prepared so that you can talk casually and confidently during the interview. You want to sound conversational, and you want to be short and concise with your answers. You want to write down questions for the interviewer. Not only is the interview a time for interviewers to ask you questions, but you want to have questions prepared to ask them. This demonstrates that you are interested in their company and interested in the job. And it also allows you to decide, is this the right company for me and the right job? Make copies of your resume. You want to take professional looking copies of your resume to your interview. And you can purchase resume paper, or you can go to a professional copying place and have them make resume copies for you. Know the proper route to the business. Now, this may seem obvious, but some businesses have multiple locations. And I've known in the past where candidates will drive to the wrong company location. So make sure you know the address of the company you're going to. And you might want to even do a dry run to that organization to see how long will it take you, because you want to make sure that you leave time for possible traffic accidents, because you never want to be late to an interview. The best way to not get a job offer is to be late to a job interview. And practice your interview. You can do this in front of a mirror. You can do this with a family member or friend. You can do it with our office, or you can do it with some software that I'm going to talk about towards the end of this interview. But the best way to be successful in your interview is to practice it. Now, during the interview, this is where you're sitting there with possible hiring manager. This is your time to shine. First, you want to try to relax. Yes, I know it's a job interview, and it's going to be a little bit stressful, but find ways, possibly prior to the interview, if you exercise, if you do yoga, if you do meditation, find things that could help you that morning that would get you in a relaxed state that you can do then in the interview. Also, a great way to be more confident and relaxed is by preparation. So if you did a good job in preparing for your interview, you're going to feel more confident and prepared, which then would lead to being more relaxed in yourself during the interview. Provide good eye contact. Make sure when you're answering questions to the interviewer that you provide eye contact, that you look at them when answering their questions. In the past, when I was a hiring manager, some of the candidates would look out the window and not look directly at us when we were asking questions. So provide good and confident eye contact. Answer the questions that are asked. Now, I had a student in my office who was also a hiring manager, and he said, I just interviewed a candidate, and they rambled on and provided personal details that I did not ask for, nor did I really want to know. So be sure that you solely answer the question that they're asking, and don't provide additional information that the employer may not want to know. Be kind to everyone you meet, be it the person that opens the door for you when you first walk into the building, the receptionist who checks you in, security. Be nice to everyone. The interview starts the minute you step foot on that property of the business. So make sure you're kind to everyone, because they may have a part of the decision of whether you will or won't get hired. Let your personality show. They want to hire you. So they want to know not only can you do the job, but will you be a person that will fit into their team? So you need to let some of your personality show in a professional manner. but let them see a little bit a part of your personality. Ask questions. Again, prior to the interview, you will have written some down in your portfolio, maybe on a legal pad, and be prepared to ask questions because this shows interest, and it also can give you an opportunity to determine whether this is the right fit for you. Get to know the interviewers and the company when you're asking the questions, and pay attention. Do these people look happy in their jobs? Are they passionate about what they're doing? Are they passionate about working for this organization? Let them know why they should hire you. You want them to offer you the job, and it's your job to tell them why they should hire you versus another candidate. Tailor your answers to the job description. So it's great if you're good at crocheting, or maybe that you're good at Pinterest, but if that's not relevant to your job search or to the job opening, then it may not be something you want to share. So make sure the things that you're expressing that you're expressing in your interview are relevant to the company and the job description and the job opening you're actually interviewing for. Be okay with a little silence. Silence is okay. If you need a moment to develop your answer to a question, it's better to take 10 seconds to formulate the answer in your mind and then give it, versus rambling or talking for the sake of filling in the silence. It's okay to have a little silence during the interview. Now, after the interview, you may say, oh, you're so glad it's over, but there are still steps that you want to take after the interview. First and foremost is to send a thank you card or email. You want to try to do this within 24 hours of the interview. And this could determine if you're one of two final candidates. The candidate says the thank you note versus you may be the candidate they choose. So make sure you take time to send a professional thank you card or email thanking them for their time, and possibly reiterating anything else that you may have missed in the interview or that you want to share with the employer. Keep searching for jobs. Now, you don't know whether you're getting this interview, or you don't know when they make a decision. So keep searching for jobs. How great would it be to have 2 job offers than just one? Follow up within 1 week or the date the employer gave you. So if at the end of the interview you said, do you know when you hope to have a decision made? If they say 2 weeks, then I would wait 2 weeks to follow up. If they say 3 weeks, I'd wait 3 weeks. But pay attention to what they said and then follow up and ask if they have a status of the position. Analyze what you could have done better, no matter who you are. No matter how many interviews you've had, there's always something that we can do better. So find out, what did you do well and what did you do better? So for your next interviews, you can improve upon that. And let's say you get called back for a second or third interview, you can then go back and do it better. Continue to practice your interview. Again, whether you've had 100 interviews, 10 interviews, or 2, you want to practice so the next time you get called for an interview that you're going to do a great job. So let's get a little more specific on some of the things that I've already mentioned. Prior to the interview, you want to make sure that you know the company in and out, what they publish on their website, what's out there on the internet, what people have said positively or negatively about the company. You want to know the job position as much as you can find out online, but also if you can do some informational interviews for people who work there or have worked there in the past, that can give you some great information. How your skills and experience match to the job opening. You want to make sure that they can tell why you would be a good fit for this job and this opening. You want to know your resume. Sometimes we wrote our resume 2, 3, 4 years ago, and maybe we only pay attention to what's on the top of your resume. But make sure you know everything on your resume and communicate and be able to answer any questions that the employer may ask regarding your resume. Why you want to work for that company. Make sure you have an answer to this and you can express that to the hiring manager, whoever is interviewing you. And also, why should they hire you over somebody else? And again, I mentioned this earlier, but I can't emphasize it enough. Answers and examples of commonly asked interview questions. You want to have answers prepared. You want to have examples prepared so that when it comes up the interview, you aren't thinking about something on the spot. You already have something prepared. So you can answer intelligently and in a concise manner. When you're researching the company, you can look at the company website. You can look at online profiles on LinkedIn. So not only is it great to look at the company information, but also the hiring manager and people who may be on the panel or hiring committee. Because the more that you can learn about them, the better you can interview. Company and industry trends. The hiring managers or interviewers may want to know, what do you know about this industry? Can you answer some big news that has happened lately? Or is the industry improving? Or are there some challenges that they're facing? Glassdoor is an online website that has great information about companies, what's good about them, what's bad about them, based on past employees or current employees, how they interview, and also salary information. You could also go to salary.com and learn about some salary information too. Why should they hire you? You can demonstrate this by looking at the job description, matching it to your resume, knowing your skills, abilities, and education and how they relate to the job opening. And what are your job values and preferences? Do you want a 9-to-5 job? Do you want to work indoors or outdoors? Do you want to work for a large organization, a small organization? Do you want to be in a big town or little town? Knowing what your preferences are, your deal breakers, or what you must have in a job can help you decide why they should hire you. Again, be prepared for potential interview questions. There are commonly asked questions, both traditional and behavioral. Analyze the job description and base these items on your resume. So when you're preparing the commonly asked questions, refer back to your resume and how you're going to answer those. So when you're practicing the commonly asked interview questions, review them first. Determine what questions might be asked based on the job description and industry. Write out answers and examples to those questions. Practice reading them aloud, because it's one thing to have it written down, but once you say it aloud, you may find out you need to make some tweaks to their answers. And conduct a mock interview. You can do this with a friend. You can do this with Interview Stream, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, or you can do it with somebody here in Career Services. You might get a couple different types of interview questions. Traditional questions are where you might hear, no matter what industry you're going into, tell me about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your interests? Why should we hire you? What do you know about this organization? Behavioral interview questions are where they say, tell me about a time in your past where you did this. The purpose of behavioral interview questions is to find out how you reacted in the past is an indicator of how you may react in the future. To look at your past behavior is a predictor of future behavior. So tell me about a time you were on a team. Tell me about a time you faced a complex problem. It usually has a specific moment. And we're going to talk about the STAR technique in a moment to show how you could answer that question. You may be asked brain teasers. These can really catch you off guard. They may say, tell me how many marbles would fit in this room. And they're not looking for the exact answer. They're looking at your critical thinking skills and your problem-solving skills. And do you have some common knowledge? So most people know the size of a marble. It's probably around the size of a pen. And if you think about, well, how big is this room? You can probably do a guesstimate based on the size of marbles and how big the room is of how many marbles may fit in the room. Now, if you just throw out an answer without doing any critical thinking, they're going to make a judgment on that you just throw answers out there without taking time to critically think. So they aren't looking for an exact answer. They're looking to how do you get to that answer. The next one is situational. If you're going into a position where you've never done before, so I give an example, if someone's going to be a police officer and they've never been a police officer, they can't use a behavior question, tell me about a time you had your gun and you faced this or pulled somebody over. You've never done that before. So they may give you a situation that you might encounter in your job to see how you would react. They're looking to see, like if I say, if you're walking down the street and as a police officer and somebody said something derogatory towards you, how would you react? And they want to know, would you pull your gun out and start shooting, or would you be calm and collective and say something nice or ignore it? what would you do? What would your behavior do? Because they're looking for a specific behavior or reaction. When you use the STAR technique, this is when you use this when asked behavioral questions. So if somebody says, Tamara, tell me about a time that you worked on a team project. So you want to talk about the situation. What's the overarching situation? Well, my colleague Catherine and I were doing the 2016 strategic planning for the department. It was the end of the year, and it was time to plan for the following year. So I was tasked with finding out what have we done in the past, and looking at how well the planning went in the last year, what were the successful programs. So I took it and I looked at reports. Then Catherine and I got back together and we researched what went well in the past, what programs worked out well. Then we got our team together and we led a meeting looking at what went well the previous year, what some programs that we want to keep, and what some programs we might want to get rid of. And then we had a discussion to find out what went well, what didn't go well, based on data, what we wanted to keep. And as a team, we came up with a plan for the following year. Then Catherine and I got back together as a leadership team, and we put together a finalized plan, showed it one last time to our team, and we ended up with a really solid plan that was results-driven and was easily implemented for the following year. So you want to be concise. You want to give actions that you did that were positive and results that were positive. So always look for examples that would show you in a positive light and show what was your contribution to this example. So what part of the interview do you think you can improve upon? So there's parts that some people do really well and parts that you need areas of improvement. So ask yourself that and be honest. What do you need improvement upon? And then look at the area and seek help or guidance if there's an area you still don't know how to improve upon. Again, we mentioned there are frequently asked questions. One of the most common that some people struggle with is, can you tell me about yourself? And with this question, this is where a lot of people maybe answer the question literally. And so they answer personal questions like, I'm married, I have 3 children, I'm from San Diego, California, I love to surf, and they're telling you about themselves. You think, well, isn't that how I answer that question? And actually, what they're looking for is, tell me about yourself as it relates to this position. So they want to know, what can you do for them? If I hired you, what could you do for me? So what you want to do with this question is, try not to give complete employment history, but give a pitch instead that demonstrates why you are the perfect fit for the job. Then list 3 experiences that you want the interview to know about you that is tied to how this experience has made you the perfect candidate. So do you have talk about your degree, talk about your internship, talk about how some experience or projects you worked on in the past would make you a good fit for this organization. So again, you want to keep it professional and talk about what you've done that would make you a good candidate. So if you do a good job in this question and answer, this may answer some of the other questions that the employer asks later on down the road. How did you hear about this position? The employer wants to know, did you research the company? How much did you research? This could indicate, do you really want this job? What do you know about the company? Again, this is a great way to demonstrate your interest. Why do you want this job? You may find during interviews that this is a time where you'll get repeat questions. They're looking for the similar answer, but they may ask the question a couple different ways to see if you're consistent in your answer, or they really want to make sure that they got the answer, the most truthful and honest answer. I'm just going to go through these quickly. What are your greatest strengths? You want to be accurate. You want to be relevant to the position. So I mentioned earlier that you may be great at crocheting, but if you're looking at a business analyst position and you never crochet, that may not be something you want to talk about during an interview. So talk about strengths that are relevant to the interview. Be specific, don't be vague. And follow up with examples on how you've demonstrated these strengths in the past. What do you consider to be your weaknesses? Now, in the past, people said, oh, well, take a positive and try to make it into a weakness. You don't want to do that. What employers are wanting to know is, do you have some self-awareness? And have you worked to overcome some weaknesses? So interview trying to find, are you honest? Balance out something you have a hard time with, but are working towards improving. So you don't want to just say, oh, I'm not good at public speaking. You can say, something in the past that I've struggled with is public speaking. What I've done is any time that I can practice my public speaking skills in small settings or maybe smaller venues, I've taken it. I've also signed myself up for a Toastmaster class so I can improve my public speaking skills. And over the last several months, I've really been able to improve it. And I'm not as affected by public speaking as I was in the past. What are your greatest professional achievements? Tell me about a challenge or conflict you faced at work and how you dealt with it. Can you think about what kind of question this is? If you said behavioral, you are right. This is where you'd use that STAR technique to answer the question. The interviewer wants to know, how will you respond to problems? Give the background, describe what happened, focus on how you handle the problem. Again, use that STAR technique. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Be prepared to talk about where you see yourself, that you have a plan. Does it involve them? They're trying to find out, is this where you really want to be? Is taking this job in line with what you want to do in the next 5 years? Why are you leaving your current job? Keep things positive. You never want to talk bad about your previous employer or anyone at your employer. Frame the situation to show you're excited about this new opportunity in the position and show how it's a better fit for you. So stay focused on the future versus any negative things that may have happened in the past. And if you were let go, be honest. How would your boss and coworkers describe you? Okay, so that was we went through a few questions, but again, you can Google commonly asked questions. You can talk to people that work there or have worked there to ask, do you know any tricky questions that pop up or any questions that I may not be aware of that are asked? So do a little research. We talked about dressing for success, but we will want to go over that a little bit. There's formal attire, business attire, casual. Again, when in doubt, ask the recruiter or hiring manager. Formal is going to be a business suit. You might have business or business casual where it's not a suit. Maybe it's a dress and a sweater for females, or for males, maybe it's khaki pants and a golf shirt. So just find out, or maybe it's casual. If you're in an environment that's, maybe there are some environments where jeans and a t-shirt would be appropriate. So find out what is the right attire for your industry and the company you're interviewing for. Here's a little infographic. If professional attire is the right attire for you, then here's just some information that you might want to use. And at the bottom here, I want to talk about this portfolio. I would highly recommend, if you don't have one, that you get one and you can bring this to the interview. Because on that sheet of paper, that's where you could write down questions to ask the interviewer. And when it comes to that point in the interview, they say, do you have any questions for us? You can open your portfolio and have those prepared questions for the interviewer. Now, I've mentioned this a few times, mock interview is so important. And in Handshake, there are resources that you can utilize to help you with interviews. So Interview Stream, if you go to Handshake and you go to Interview Stream, you can see it's there in the blue. The icon, the way it looks may change, but you want to look for Interview Stream. You're going to click on Interview Stream. And then you're going to register if you haven't yet, or log on if you've already registered. You can see it says email address and password. You want to follow the prompts. Then you click on Conduct an Interview there to the left. And usually there's going to be one created for you. So go ahead and click on Created for Me and select the interview that you want to take. You want to then test your hardware of your computer and software to make sure it's prepared for you to do the interview. And then once you confirm it's ready to go, you'd go ahead and take the interview. And this is what it would look like. There's a woman or man who will ask a question. You record your answer, and then you can watch it. Once you're completely done with the interview, you can watch it, or you could send it to someone to have them review it. This is really great because a coach can tell you, hey, you did this, you did that, but seeing it for yourself, you can learn a lot. So in summary, when you're trying to get to that job offer, preparation is key. The more prepared you are, the more you're going to come off confident and conversational, and you're going to be able to pay attention to what the interviewer's looking for. How are they reacting? Is this the right company and job for you? Be able to communicate why the employer should hire you. Don't assume the employer has memorized your resume. Do your research and explain why you want to work for that company. Practice your interview answers and examples, and dress for success. You only have one chance to make a first impression. If you have additional questions, feel free to contact us. We are located currently in Durango B103 at 5998 Acala, and you can click and see there's information there. If you have questions, you can email us, and we're happy to help you. Thank you for attending this webinar, and we look forward to working with you to help you be successful in your job search.